You've watched Glee a million times. You've seen Rachel Berry try her hardest to get that Fanny Brice role. You've seen that entire story arc play out. And now you've seen that Lea Michele is playing Fanny Brice on Broadway in Funny Girl. And you're asking yourself, is it actually worth paying an elevated price to go and see her as that character? I recently did exactly that. I was in New York for about 3 days and managed to see 3 shows. One of them was Funny Girl. And let me tell you, getting these tickets was not straightforward, but somehow, through some luck, I was able to get a front row seat. As you can see here, I was nestled into the corner. I actually met some other Brits on the front row. Like, some of them were going to like musical theatre school here in the UK. It was such a cool coincidence. But I'm nestled in the corner there and got to see Rachel Berry in the flesh playing this role. Now, there are some facts that you need to understand about Lea Michele being in this production that are going to weigh in on why the tickets are a little bit more expensive, and also just the entire situation right now. So just, I think in the past week, they've announced that Funny Girl has recouped its investment. It's recouped its initial investment, which doesn't always happen. It's not always a guarantee for a Broadway show. And that means that the millions and millions and millions of dollars that went into it in the first place have now been balanced out by the profits, or the revenue, generated by the show being put on every night. And Funny Girl is an interesting one because the average ticket price for Funny Girl is actually a little higher than the overall Broadway average. So I think the Broadway average is somewhere in the region of like $120, and I believe the Funny Girl average is more like 130 or 135, something like that. So it's not like the average price is like 300, but it's definitely a notch above compared to what you see elsewhere. Again, as I understand it, I'm not an expert. This is just what I've sort of picked up by paying attention to this sort of stuff. And part of the reason they can get away with that is that Lea Michele is only in the show until the 3rd of September, and the way that she plays the part is really, truly remarkable in my opinion, because she's got so much of the energy that people would expect from her performance on Glee over the years, but at the same time, she's really sort of trying to be Fanny now, as opposed to trying to be Rachel being Fanny, if that makes sense. And it's a joy to watch her on stage. It's a joy to watch her sing. Seeing her sing all of those big numbers that you're so familiar with her singing over the years is just honestly quite surreal. Like, you've seen it on TV, but now you get to see it in the flesh, and she is absolutely pitch perfect. It's fantastic. It really is. But it isn't a complete no-brainer to go on a night where she is playing, because the alternate for Fanny Brice is a woman by the name of Jule Benko, and she is phenomenal, and her portrayal of the character is very different. Julie, in my perception of things, is really putting a lot more energy into her kind of overall acting of the role, whereas, I nearly called her Rachel, Lea Michele is a little bit less outwardly acted, if that makes sense. Like, there's less kind of going on, but she's really leaning into her voice and the way that that carries weight and emotion and is just so crystal clear and beautiful and fantastic. Like, she is a flawless singer, unbelievable talent, really. And Julie is incredible as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Julie's singing. That would be insane of me to do. She's so good, but her performance definitely has a different angle to it. And so if you're more into a more acted performance, I think that Julie may actually be a good fit for you. And you can see when Lea Michele is on or when Jule Benko is on via the little ticket concierge button on the Funny Girl website. So before you book your tickets, go on there, take a look to see if there's any scheduled dates where Lea Michele's going to be out. There are some regular ones, there are some one-offs here and there, so keep that in mind. I also want to give a couple other call-outs. Ramin Karimloo is Nick Arnstein, and he's obviously fantastic. I actually think that his part doesn't give him a huge amount of space to really show off. I think that the Nick Arnstein character is just second fiddle to Fanny, obviously, in this production, and that makes sense, and that's fine. That's not a criticism of the show necessarily, but Ramin Karimloo is a powerhouse of a Broadway actor, and it would be really cool to see him in other things. Like, I've seen him in Dr. Zhivago, but there were problems with the tech at the time. That was here in London, in the West End's London Palladium. And so I was like, man, I'm still just chasing that moment of really seeing him get to flex. One day it'll happen, I'm sure. And another call out that I think is worth mentioning is Jared Grimes as Eddie Ryan. He brings this really lovely sort of joy to the stage at moments and has a few kind of tap solo scenes which are really electric and energetic and get your kind of heart racing a little bit, and you're enjoying his playing with the fourth wall as well, just as much as you're enjoying the sort of pure performance inside the bubble of the scene. Like, looking at it from the outside, you're like, okay, yeah, he's doing amazing. And then he'll kind of turn his gaze to the audience, and you know that he's kind of breaking that wall a little bit and participating with you guys. And there's some really cool moments there. Now, as far as Funny Girl itself as a show goes, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't think that it's a particularly interesting show. Like, the book itself, yeah, I mean, okay. It's not like it's something that I think is particularly emotive. I don't think you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to be like in tears, or you're going to feel really wholesome, or any sort of clear, really, really strong emotion. There's not a lot of takeaways, in my view, from the show. And that's not necessarily a problem. But if you're going into it thinking it's going to be Parade, wrong show. Wrong show. But if you're just looking for sort of essentially a bit of razzle dazzle, then Funny Girl checks that box. And Lea Michele playing a role that you would have seen so many times before, but doing it live and in the flesh, checks that box in an incredibly satisfying way. And there are ways to get slightly cheaper tickets too. They are in a couple of ticket lotteries. So if you're looking for a way to get really cheap seats, then that's going to be an option. I think that the outcome of that would be like a $40 ticket if you won the lottery. Maybe it's $49, something along those lines. So if you can get a seat like that, hell yeah, absolutely. But even if you're having to pay more like that sort of average price, I think that it's worth seeing if you're a Glee fan. If you're not a Glee fan and you don't give a damn about Lea Michele, then at that point, maybe consider Julie Benko as an option, but only do that if you're willing to go for the sheer vocal ability, and less for the fact, in my opinion at least, that the show is so good. Because I don't think the show itself is. I think my rating for it as a result would probably be 4 stars. It would be 5 if the show was better. It would be a 3 if Lea Michele wasn't in it. I had a good time. I also paid $10 for a soda in this cup, and then just asked for water. I literally just wanted the cup, that was it. But didn't realize that it's not even like Lea Michele branded or anything. So I was thinking that I was getting like a piece of memorabilia from her being in the show. Alas, it's just a regular cup. But if you've been to see it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're considering seeing it, hopefully this video was a little bit useful for you. I make a bunch of theater content. I'm going to be seeing some more shows in New York soon, so subscribe and I'll see you next time.